Well, welcome back to the kitchen here on Fat Daddy Sports. I am your Fat Daddy host, Craig. And hey, we are on a mission right now trying to get to the first 100 subscribers here on Fat Daddy Sports. If you see something in this video or you get some information that is valuable to you, would you please go ahead and hit subscribe, leave a comment, leave a like. Anything you can do helps us out here. It goes a long way as we're trying to hit that first 100 subscribers here on this channel. Today, we are taking a look at the top 24 wide receivers in my ranks for fantasy football this season. Football is back. I've got preseason football on in the background, kind of watching that, making this video. Man, it is so close. We are right there. Drafts will be happening soon, and the kickoff will be here before we know it. But today we're talking about top 24 wide receivers, looking at wide receivers 24 through 13, breaking this down into a two-part series, just like I did for the running backs. You can check that out on my channel. Look at who I've got 1 through 24 at the running back position. But today we're talking about wide receiver, and I'm going to start actually with two honorable mention wide receivers today. Two guys that are just outside of that top 24, just missing that wide receiver 2 criteria. Guys that I think could break into there, but I have them just missing out, and that is DJ Moore in Buffalo and Zay Flowers in Baltimore. We'll start with Zay Flowers, who I have as wide receiver 26. Touchdowns are not Zay Flowers' strong suit, and I just think this year he may struggle a little bit. That Baltimore offense, I think, with the new coaching change, until I see it, I'm not going to believe it yet. Maybe they'll light the world on fire. Maybe the change is what they needed to really unlock things. But I'm going to take a step back on Zay Flowers. He's currently going as wide receiver 19 on Sleeper right now. I'm going to move him down just a little bit to wide receiver 26. And then DJ Moore, that's one I feel like I might be wrong on. I go back and forth. I was initially really out on DJ Moore, but right now I'm feeling like I might be wrong on that, and he might blow up this year for Buffalo. I've talked about how Buffalo needs that wide receiver 1, and I think he could be it. Kind of a lackluster time in Chicago. Him and Caleb not always seeing eye to eye, but I think he might be just what this Buffalo offense needs. Right now, I have him just outside that top 24. And then jumping into the top 24, we will go to a guy who I'm pretty high on to score a lot of touchdowns this year. Just not entirely sure that he's going to play the whole season. Already banged up a little bit, and that's Mike Evans in San Francisco, coming over from Tampa Bay, longtime Buccaneer. He's had great success there, a lot of touchdowns for the Buccaneers, and I just think he's a perfect fit for this 49ers offense, exactly what they needed. They're obviously banged up at wide receiver already, and Mike Evans is right there with the rest of the banged up wide receivers. But I think by the time season starts, he'll be ready to rock. He's going to catch a lot of touchdowns this year for the 49ers. I just worry a little bit about that health and Christian McCaffrey stealing some of those touchdowns. So I have him just a little bit lower. Actually, I have him one spot higher than ADP. He's currently going as wide receiver 25 right now on Sleeper. So one spot higher than consensus on Mike Evans. Going to wide receiver number 23, and it is a guy who lacks no talent, a guy that I was very high on coming out of college. I'm just a little worried about his quarterback, and that is Bryce Young in Carolina. So Tet McMillan is wide receiver 23 for me. Love the talent. Love the opportunity he has there. I don't see a lot of competition for targets. They've got some pieces, but really Tet McMillan should be the guy again. Had a pretty good rookie season, and I think he'll build on that this year. I just worry about the consistency at the quarterback position for Bryce Young. I think that running game is going to be better this year. Jonathan Brooks is going to be the real deal. He's going to score some touchdowns and take some opportunities away from the passing game, and I just worry a little bit about that consistency for Tet McMillan. Nothing against the player, just the situation at quarterback for him bumps him a little bit for me. He's currently going as wide receiver 15 on Sleeper ADP. So I'm a little bit lower on Tet. Not a guy that I have a lot of shares of, not a guy that I really look to draft a whole lot. But I love the talent of Tet McMillan. Coming in at wide receiver 22 is new Denver Bronco Jalen Waddle. We've seen him in Miami, obviously in those explosive offenses with Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane. But Waddle struggles to stay on the field health-wise, and he's already banged up in training camp. I'm a believer in Bo Nix. I'm a believer in Sean Payton and the things that he'll do. I think Jalen Waddle could be that slant merchant that we saw Michael Thomas be for years and years in New Orleans. Little worried about the health, but more so just the mouths to feed there in Denver, and not an offense that scored a whole lot of points last year. So I think in a PPR format, Jalen Waddle could be a lot more beneficial. He's going to catch a lot of passes this year. I just don't know how many points the Broncos are going to score as an offense. It's going to be a little bit of tough sledding for the Broncos at times this year, especially on the offensive end. Coming in at wide receiver 21 is a guy who I'm probably lower on in just real life football. And I guess fantasy football too, but I've got him at wide receiver 21, and that's Jameson Williams for the Detroit Lions. He is obviously an explosive player. He's a player that coming out of college, I was hoping that my Kansas City Chiefs could get a hold of. A ton of speed, seemed like a lot of raw talent when he first came into the league. He seems to have shored up some of that stuff. He's, a great route runner. He obviously plays for one of the best offenses in football. The scoring is there. He was a top 20 wide receiver last year. I think the same is probably going to be true this year. He's going to have some weeks where he's really good. He's going to have some weeks where he disappears for you. And I try typically to stay away from those wide receivers personally, just because I don't know what I'm getting week in and week out. Maybe this year he has a little bit of a more safe floor. But I do think that Sam Laporta coming back and being fully healthy this season is going to eat into J-Mo's workload a little bit. So I'm a little bit lower on Jameson Williams. I've got him at wide receiver 21. Next up on the list is wide receiver 20, and that is T. Higgins in Cincinnati, a guy who, much like all of these guys that kind of go in this range, has struggled with the health, with contract things, whatever it is. He's struggled to be on the field. And his quarterback has struggled to be on the field. He obviously plays alongside of one of, if not the best wide receiver in football, in Jamar Chase. I like this Bengals offense a lot to score a lot of points this year, and Higgins should be right there in the conversation as a solid wide receiver too. If you can get him at the right price, I'm okay taking him. Obviously, if you take Jamar Chase early in the draft, you don't want to have both of them, I don't think. But I do think that he's going to be used a lot this year, and he could be a very good value pick if you get him at the right time. Talking about value picks, this is maybe the best wide receiver value in the draft, in my opinion, and that is wide receiver number 19, Davante Adams, currently going as wide receiver 23 on ADP. I have him at wide receiver 19. I am trying to get Davante Adams as late as I can in as many drafts as I can. Obviously, there's some news right now with Puka and maybe missing some time, maybe suspension looming there. But right now, in the middle of August, Davante Adams' price is perfect. He's somebody that you can snag a little bit later if you wait at wide receiver. If you kind of go that hero wide receiver route, you get one of those top wide receivers in the first round, and then you load up on running backs. Davante Adams is a perfect candidate to wait at wide receiver and snag him as your wide receiver too. He's going to catch a ton of touchdowns this year from Matthew Stafford. He's in one of the best offenses in football. The opportunity is going to be there for Davante Adams. He's going to be out on the field. He's a perfect late round or later round, middle round wide receiver to snag and buy the discount on his age. Coming in at my wide receiver 18, he is currently going as wide receiver 20 on Sleeper, and that is DeVonta Smith in Philadelphia. I'm a little bit higher than consensus, which surprises me because I'm not a huge believer in the Philadelphia offense. I'm very nervous about Jalen Hurts and that passing game this year, but I think DeVonta Smith is, coming out of college, he was an elite talent, somebody that really had numbers that we haven't seen in a long time. His only knock was just his size, and he's proven in the NFL that he's able to handle that. He's put on some muscle, put on some weight, and now he gets that chance to be the wide receiver one with A.J. Brown moving on to New England. We'll see how much Mekhi Lemon takes into that wide receiver role, which I think he will take in quite a bit of that. I think that Dallas Goedert's also going to take into that a little bit. But I think DeVonta Smith could be a good option there in the middle rounds. There's kind of that run of wide receivers. A lot of these guys that are right here ranked that I'm talking about all kind of go in a run together. If you get DeVonta Smith, I don't think you're going to be upset about it. He has a pretty safe weekly floor for you. Moving on to wide receiver 17, talk about a guy that has a perfect chance to be wide receiver one in Tampa Bay for Baker Mayfield, playing for a contract right now. Mike Evans moves over to San Francisco, and Emeka Egbuka, second-year wide receiver, has a golden opportunity right now to be the wide receiver one. He's being drafted as the wide receiver one in Tampa Bay. My only concern is that I am still a believer in Chris Godwin. I think that he is still has some in the tank. Obviously, the rookie Ted Hurst is getting a lot of hype in training camp right now. We'll see how much he actually gets on the field once games start. I think that that's my only knock against Egbuka. I had Emeka Egbuka on my team last year, and man, he was on fire to start the season. Injuries happened, and he kind of died off at the end of the season for me. But I think going forward this year, now in a solidified role, it could be a very, very good pick there in the middle rounds, having Emeka Egbuka as your wide receiver too. Wide receiver 16, man, this one kind of bums me out a little bit. I wanted to be so much higher on this guy. I was very high on him last year, and that is our king in Chicago, Luther Burden, already dealing with injuries, set to miss about a month or so right now. Hopefully that's all it is. Hopefully this doesn't linger over into the season. Realistically, I mean, Colston Loveland is a monster out there. The running game is going to be very strong, and you still got Rome Odunze there in Chicago. So who really is going to be that number one target guy? I think it'll probably be Luther Burden, and I think this is going to be a team that's going to score a lot of points. But I do have some hesitation there with Burden, and obviously the injury doesn't help that. We'll see how quickly he gets back out there and is cleared to start playing again. But right now, that knocks him down a few spots for me personally. Moving on to wide receiver 15, going out to Los Angeles, a guy who had a good rookie season, a little bit of a disappointment last year, but I think with that new Chargers offense, I talk about it every single episode. Love the Chargers this year, and I think Ladd McConkey is going to explode this year. Somebody that I want to get in as many drafts as I can, a perfect wide receiver 2 option. I think he's going to see a ton of targets this year from Justin Herbert. Going to put up a lot of points for you, and he's one of those guys right now that I have listed outside the top 10 that could definitely break into that top 10. I could see him going up as maybe, I don't know, wide receiver 7 or 8. I think that that's kind of the ceiling for Ladd McConkey. He could absolutely dominate targets this year and really wreak havoc in those PPR formats. Next on the list at wide receiver 14 for the Jets, Garrett Wilson. Talk about another guy who could go crazy in the target department. I think Geno Smith is going to hyper focus on Garrett Wilson and force feed him the ball as many times as he can. Aaron Glenn is kind of coaching for his job right now. What that means, I don't know. I don't know if the offense is going to be any good or not, but I think they're going to force feed Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall the ball a ton this year. I don't know how many touchdowns Wilson will have. I don't know how many catches or yards he'll have. I don't know how many of these balls will be catchable, but I think they're going to throw the ball at Garrett Wilson a ton this year and just force feed him the ball. And rounding out this episode is wide receiver 13, somebody who I am a little bit lower on. He is currently going as wide receiver 10 on Sleeper, and that is George Pickens for the Cowboys. We saw Pickens have a very solid year for the Cowboys last year, an offense that kind of exploded. Wasn't really that big of a surprise if you were paying attention. We all kind of expected that to be the case, and I expect it to be the case again this year. My only concern is that Pickens really started to take off when CeeDee Lamb was dealing with injury last year. I think if they're both healthy, CeeDee Lamb is still that clear-cut alpha there in Dallas. I think the the track record that him and Dak have together, it's not going to just change after 1 year. I still think George Pickens is an incredible talent. I saw that when he was in Pittsburgh. I said that when he was in Pittsburgh. Obviously, things didn't work out there. He comes to the Cowboys now playing on that franchise tag. I think he's probably going to go nuclear in a lot of games. But overall, over the course of the season, I just can't put him inside that top 10 personally. I think there's some other guys there that I would much rather have as my wide receiver one. I don't quite feel comfortable having Pickens as my wide receiver one. Well, that's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks so much for checking it out. Like I said, if you see anything or you heard anything in this that you found valuable, go ahead and leave a comment, drop a like, and hit subscribe. And next video, we will go over the top 12 wide receivers in my ranks, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.